Whoa, now we have a change in narrative suddenly happening in the national media. All these guys who told you all off season long that Justin Fields has no talent around him and we can't even evaluate him this year and blah blah blah. Now these same people are evaluating Fields on a weekly basis and doing complete 180s on the narratives they sold you all off season long. Don Burr, what happened? The things I've talked about all offseason are happening right in front of our face, while the national media is just doing a complete 180s and changing the narratives about the Bears and Justin Fields on the fly. It's kind of funny to watch. The same guys who clowned Fields before, I'm talking Ryan Clark, Sam Acho, Colin Cowherd, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, and others. These are the guys who tried to get tons of clicks by bashing on Fields in the offseason. Now they're desperately trying to jump on the bandwagon, and I'm not here for it. I told them back then, keep that same energy when Fields becomes a star. They definitely didn't expect it to happen this soon because some of them were still bashing him 2 weeks ago. Instead, they've completely flipped their takes and are now talking about how Justin Fields is the man all of a sudden. It's funny how one or two games can get guys to completely change their takes. This is why we don't listen to the national media. The exact same guys who said we don't have enough talent on this team to evaluate Justin Fields and the front office doesn't believe in him, overnight have started calling him the best quarterback from the 2021 draft class. How can you go on record and say we don't have the talent to evaluate him this year, but then just a couple of weeks later do a full 180 and your evaluation is already done? Well, that's because these guys don't actually do any evaluating. All they do is look for clickbait and spread narratives. They have completely changed their stances now overnight. Now they're saying Justin Fields is going to be a star and that we can evaluate him. It's important to remember what these guys said just a couple of weeks ago, though. After losing to the Washington Commanders, there were articles and guys on national TV and ESPN and 670 The Score talking about how the Bears hired the wrong guy and how we might be drafting a quarterback next season. I went on record saying there's no way we draft a quarterback in the first round next year. Just no way. It would be the dumbest decision in Bears history. We need to support Fields by bringing in talent around us. They told us we were the worst team in the league, that this offense had no weapons, and that our front office didn't believe in Fields. Ryan Poles went out and made a statement to the contrary when he acquired Chase Claypool. He let the world know how much he believes in Justin Fields, and I believe it reinvigorated this fan base. A lot of guys in the national media criticized Fields' lack of talent around him and pointed to other young QBs in the league like Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Josh Allen. The problem was they twisted the narratives. They told you the Eagles and Dolphins went out and got Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown, but they didn't tell you it wasn't until year 3. They also didn't tell you that those teams didn't fire their head coaches and GMs after the first year, or that they were in terrible problems with the salary cap. One of the last things I want to touch on, and I may do a deeper dive on this later, is the biggest point that the national media misses when talking about the Chicago Bears. It's a tale of two different timelines: Justin Fields' career in the NFL and where the Chicago Bears are financially. Fans wanted to see Ryan Poles add talent around Justin Fields. I made a video yesterday about the rebuild and how the process works and why it required a teardown first. The biggest part of all this is when you do a teardown, it keeps you from going all in that season. You have to clear the books first, and then you get a lot more flexibility in the next offseason. Simply put, the Bears' window to go all in and add a bunch of talent around our young quarterback doesn't start until next season, which would be his 3rd year. Yes, sometimes it is better to bring in more weapons, but you can still evaluate him with the talent we have on the roster just fine. The Bills evaluated Josh Allen just fine, even though his best receiver in year 2 was John Brown. It wasn't until year 3 that they got Stephon Diggs. Ryan Poles didn't wait until year 3, though. He used this trade deadline and went out and got Chase Claypool. Not so he could evaluate Justin Fields, just so Justin Fields could help carry this offense. And a guy like Claypool changes the dynamic of this offense. I've talked about it in quite a few previous videos, so I won't go into that here. But now, next season, all of the moves Ryan Poles made this year will pay dividends, and this Bears team will have more flexibility than anyone else in the league, with twice as much cap space as the second closest team. Let me explain what that means for a minute when I'm talking about flexibility. Not only do they have the draft picks and the cap space, but they also have a lot of flexibility in how they want to spend the money now. We don't have to re-sign Roquan Smith, and Ryan Poles is free to put that money anywhere he wants on the roster. With this much cap space, we can realistically overpay for anyone we want in free agency, or use the money wisely and attack the roster at various positions. The options are limitless. There's so many different things that Ryan Poles can do this offseason. It potentially sets up this offseason to be one of the biggest in Chicago Bears franchise history. I'll go into detail about that more as we get closer to the end of the season and head into the offseason. But with the moves Ryan Poles has made, he did put a lot of pressure on himself next year. All of that money and those draft picks, he has to spend it wisely, and he has to hit on a couple of those picks. The bottom line, though, is the national media fails to understand the timeline of the Chicago Bears. They also fail to realize that this was a rebuild, and they missed all of the smart things that Ryan Poles was doing. They used clickbait and negative articles to trash this Bears team all season long and all off season. Now they're telling everybody he's the best QB from last year's draft class and dancing and celebrating him. It's actually pretty hilarious. I love the national media. Stay tuned, guys. I'm hard at work on this all 22 video. The reason I make videos like this is because there's always a lot of ideas circulating in my head, and the all 22 takes me legit 12 plus hours to make. And I don't like leaving you guys hanging for an entire day. And I can make a video like this in less than an hour, maybe 2 at max usually. So when I'm working on a video that takes a lot longer, I'll take a break or two and record something else so that I keep content coming out for you guys. Sometimes that means I don't put as many graphics or video clips in these, so they might not be as fun to watch, but I am trying to include a lot more and spice things up. I just don't want it to affect the release of the All 22, because I know a lot of you guys look forward to those. So I'm going to get back to work on that.
I would put Carson Wentz into the MVP conversation. I believe in him and Indianapolis that much. And then 3, I'd say this.
He said MVP, bro. My man said MVP.
Like that 2017 Philadelphia Eagles.
No, Mina, I know, Mina. Oh.
Philly didn't have a star in 2017.
No.
Really good pieces around him.
The worst quarterback in that game wasn't Lance. It was Fields. They were both bad, but Fields was worse. Fields can't read. He can't read the progression. It's one look and go. Fields can't read. He can't read the progression. It's one look and go.
Because quite frankly, this roster sucks. It's just the reality of it. It's not a good roster.
But this football team around him, you tell me how they got better offensively to the point where he will then be able to just let his athletic ability shine. I don't see it, man. I don't see it, and I hate that for him. I hate it for him, but I think this is going to be, as you said, Dan, this could be an ugly year for Chicago.
Then Fields. You know, Fields is a guy that is not he makes a lot of mistakes, not particularly accurate at times. He's not a quick read and react guy, and he's on a horrendous team, talent-wise. Well, that's, I don't know if I've seen an offense that bad in talent since the 0-16 Detroit Lions. You know, they just don't have anybody there. I think if you put Rodgers down there, Rodgers would be last in this list too, you know. So, man, I tell you, it's a bad football team, you know, the Bears right now. So I think Goff will play well this year, and I think it's an easy stack for me: Rodgers, Cousins, Goff, and Fields.
It's all about the future and the money, the draft picks, things of that nature. Because quite frankly, this roster sucks. It's just the reality of it. It's not a good roster.
Well,
there's no players there. I mean, think about it. They've only got 2 or 3 players that could probably start for another team. 2 to maybe 3.
Justin doesn't know what he ate. The offensive coordinator doesn't know what to fucking do. That's a problem.
Well, when you talk about circumstances, the Bears have failed this quarterback, this young quarterback. 2 Bears regimes have failed this young quarterback. The previous regime, they picked him, high-round pick, but the reality is they blew it on Mitch Trubisky, and so that group know that they were on borrowed time, unless something miraculous happened. It didn't happen miraculously. This group, he's not their guy. Now, I'm not saying that they don't want him to win, and I'm not saying they aren't going to do what they can. But the offensive line is not good. The overall roster talent is not good. So you have 2 regimes. I just think that when you look at the Bears and this young man, they have failed him. They have failed him. They have failed him.
2 pick, and there's a difference between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Do you start over with Fields, or do you keep Darnold and take those picks and rebuild? What would you do?
Yeah, Colin, I don't know that Justin Fields is that big an upgrade over Sam Darnold. I still think that Sam Darnold's got talent.
Suggested that the Bears are evaluating a young quarterback right now. Why did that bother you so much?
You can't evaluate a quarterback if you don't feel like you've put him in position to succeed. Now, if I've surrounded you with great skill players, if I've gotten you the protection that you needed, now I know if you fail, that's on you. Let's look at the Josh Allens of the world. Let's look at Jalen Hurts and what the Philadelphia Eagles have done for him. You can now evaluate him because you know you've done everything to put him into a position to succeed, and also your team. And so if he doesn't, you say, you know what? It's about you. We have to replace you. We get somebody else in here. We're better at the position. We're better as a team.
I gotta give it to him.
Don't be hyped.
Justin Fields.
Shut up.
Justin Fields. I gotta give it to him.
But they say he can't play.
They say he can't play.
They say he got to get a new quarterback.
They say he got to get a new
They
quarterback.
should have drafted somebody else.
They say get somebody else. What they gonna do now? What they gonna do now?
It's about you. We have to replace you. We get somebody else in here. We're better at the position. We're better as a team.
They say they got to get a new quarterback.
They say he got to get a new
They
quarterback.
should have drafted somebody else.
It's about you. We have to replace you. We get somebody else in here. We're better at the position.
The worst quarterback in that game wasn't Lance. It was Fields. They were both bad, but Fields was worse. Fields can't read. He can't read the progression. It's one look and go.
Hey, Ryan Poles, do you want to win the f***ing North? Because when you were introduced as a GM, you were told, we're going to win the North. Well, guess what? Welcome to f***ing Green Bay, and we're getting our goddamn dicks kicked in. Okay, we're going to draft 5th-round tackles. We're going to draft a bunch of low-round guys and have them start every single snap of the game. And then you're going to wonder why we get our asses kicked by teams that are constantly in the playoffs. Congratulations, Ryan Poles. You really f***ing did it. If you want to take the North, right now is the time to f***ing do it. Like, I'm so f***ing sick of Ryan Poles. I'm so fucking sick of this team acting like everything's totally fine and we constantly lose at Lambeau. Figure it out.
Up to the draft, I got so much hate mail because I like Mac Jones better. Justin doesn't know what he ate. The offensive coordinator doesn't know what to fucking do. That's a problem.
Stay tuned, hit that like button for me, and as always, until next time, bear down.